Hi everybody, this is Lara with your weekly analysis for Bitcoin for the trading week beginning Monday 27th of September 2021. Last week I expected Bitcoin to go a bit lower. The target zone was 39,223 to 38,046. Price did move lower, but it only reached 39,787.61. It looks like it may have stopped there, falling a bit short of that target zone. Not too far short though, just over $500. The main Elliott Wave count now expects that the next bull run for Bitcoin may have begun, and it's a third wave at multiple large degrees. This is an extremely bullish wave count. I still expect that strong support to remain in place and not be breached at 28,893.621 if we do see any surprise downward movement. First Elliott Wave analysis and then classic technical analysis. And I'm only going to go over the monthly chart once a month, so that will be in next Monday's video for you. At the weekly chart level, the main wave count sees a big second wave at cycle degree over here for Bitcoin at the end of December 2018, and this pullback here was nearly an 84% reduction in market value. Bitcoin's second waves are commonly very deep. If a second wave has ended here, then this is where a third wave has begun, and I am expecting the third wave is incomplete, subdividing as an impulse. At primary degree, it will be labelled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm expecting primary 3 is not over here. It's more likely to be extending as a very long extension, and I'll explain why when we get to the alternate wave count, which does consider the possibility it was over there. It's more likely it's not over. Primary 3 may only subdivide as an impulse, and within it, intermediate waves 1 and 2 may be complete. This is a relatively deep correction. It's over the halfway mark of intermediate wave 1, but it's a lot more shallow than Bitcoin's second waves usually are. That's okay. I expect now that the upward pull of a third wave at 3 large degrees may have pulled intermediate 2 up to be a little bit more shallow than Bitcoin's second waves usually are. Intermediate 3 may only subdivide as an impulse, and within it minor waves 1 and 2 may be complete. If minor 2 does continue any lower, and it could as a double zigzag, then it may not move beyond the start of 1 below 28,893.621, and I do expect strong support in this area to remain. Let's take a look at the daily chart now, where this low here, the end of intermediate 2, is this point down here from this low to this high. This is a good looking 5-wave impulse for minor wave 1, minute 2 a deep flat correction, minute 3 an impulse, minute 4 a running contracting triangle with nice proportion to minute 2 and perfect alternation, and a short minute wave 5. Minor wave 2 now looks like a really obvious 3-wave structure, subdividing as a zigzag A, B, C. C has moved beyond the end of A, minor 2 falling a little short of the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of minor wave 1. If minor 2 is not over there, it could continue lower as a double zigzag. This is the risk to this wave count at this date. It may not move beyond the start of 1 below 28,893.621. If it does continue lower, it might find support at the lower edge of this channel, although it was weakened by this breach down here, so the technical significance is not as strong as it was previously. There's a pretty good bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here though to suggest that we may have a sustainable low in place, or at least we should expect a trend change to either up or sideways. At the weekly chart level, on my last weekly chart I said this is the alternate. It considers what if primary wave 3 was over here, and this is the reason why this is an alternate. Looking back at Bitcoin's price history, its third waves are usually over 15 times the length of its first waves, particularly at larger degrees. Here, if primary 3 was over at the last all-time high, it would be only 5.71 times the length of primary 1. That's only about a third of the usual length of a third wave for this market. And so it looks more likely that the main wave count is correct and that primary 3 is not over. But let's consider all possibilities. It's important to always have at least one alternate to consider. If primary 3 is over and primary 4 is underway, it may not move into wave 1 price territory below 13,826.76. Primary 4 may unfold as any one of more than 23 Elliott wave corrective structures, and I'm going to label it as a triangle until it shows itself to not be a triangle. If it's a triangle, then wave A and B may be complete, wave C may continue lower and will probably end at the AC trend line drawn across these two lows, and then D may not move beyond the end of B, and then E may not move beyond the end of C. It's also possible primary 4 could morph into some kind of double combination, W as a zigzag, X and then Y as a flat correction or possibly a triangle. My targets for Bitcoin are highly provisional. I'm just playing with some Fibonacci numbers and previous wavelengths within this market here to come up with some possible general areas. As we get toward the end of the structure, I'll be trying to calculate targets as accurately as I can for you, but Bitcoin doesn't often exhibit Fibonacci ratios, so it is particularly difficult to calculate targets for it. I'm going to be using classic analysis to identify the eventual high for Bitcoin like I did in December 2017. I found that high 6 days after it formed, and I'm expecting, or certainly hoping, that I'll be able to do something similar again. Maybe not that accurately or quickly, but something similar. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's have a look at the daily chart for the alternate where the end of intermediate A, which is seen as a zigzag, ends down here. This is where A ends. B may be a complete zigzag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for A, B, and a short C. This is possible. This upward movement doesn't look as good as a zigzag as it does as a 5-wave motive structure, which is what the main wave count sees it as. The proportions here aren't as good. Minor B specifically is too brief to have a really good look, but this is possible. If intermediate B is over there within a triangle, then intermediate C downward may have begun. Intermediate C may be subdividing as a double zigzag because one of the 5 subwaves of a triangle commonly subdivides as a multiple zigzag, and the most common subwave to do that is wave C. If it's not C, then D is the next common multiple within a triangle. And so that looks like there's a zigzag over here, so for this wave count I'll expect a double zigzag to continue lower to end when price comes to touch the support line. I wouldn't expect an overshoot. We may see an undershoot, but if the price comes to touch this line, I would expect it to be very likely to end there and have a sustainable low if that happens. Intermediate wave C of either a barrier or contracting triangle may not move beyond the end of A below 28893.621. Okay, classic analysis this week, now that we've got the weekly candlestick complete. It's got a little bit of a bullish long lower wick, but it's got push from volume. Those two things are contradictory, but Bitcoin does often end its strong downward movements with strong volume. We did see a little decline in volume here from this week to this week though, and here we're seeing an increase in volume. So it's not definitive. We could have a low in place here, but we could have a little bit more downward movement. If we do, I'll look out for really strong support at 28,900. It's been repeatedly tested. The more times support or resistance is tested and holds, the more technical significance the area has. At this low, there is a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern with some support from volume. Volume on this week here is slightly better than the 2 previous downward weeks. So price was falling and volume was quite low and declining, and then there was an upward week and volume picked up. So there's more interest in the upward week. This is bullish. We can have some confidence in this bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. Again, supporting the idea of a sustainable low in place down there. On balance, volume is constrained, no signal either way this week. RSI well in neutral territory, and ADX declining, telling us that after the previous upward trend, there's no clear trend yet at this time frame. And RSI says if a trend develops, there's plenty of room for it to move up or down. It's almost perfectly neutral. And stochastics in neutral territory. At the daily chart level, at this low, there is a small bullish divergence between price and stochastics. I give more weight to divergence between price and RSI, but if we do see divergence between price and stochastics, I give it a little weight. It's there. There's also a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, but doesn't have support from volume at the daily chart level. That last one at the weekly chart level did. This one down here does. Here's some support from volume for this candlestick, so unsurprising we got some upward movement. A lack of support here does prompt me to outline the risk here to members that that second wave could continue lower as a double zigzag. So that's why I've left the invalidation point where I have. That's the risk to the wave count at this time. Bitcoin's lows are a lot harder to identify than its highs in my experience. I've drawn a new support line for on-balance volume. It doesn't have great technical significance. If it's tested more, it could develop further significance, but for now, on-balance volume remains at support and below resistance after breaking below what was previously support, should now continue to be resistance. So there's a weak range here. ADX indicates a downward trend, but it's just moved above both DX lines, so the trend is now extreme. However, for this market, downward and upward trends in either direction can reach very extreme and remain there for quite a sustained period of time. RSI neutral territory, plenty of room for price to rise or fall with Bonova stochastics, and ATR overall flat. That's all from me this week with your Bitcoin analysis. I hope all our members had a really awesome weekend.